So welcome to Real Life in Real Estate. I'm Nickie Robbs, and I'm a real estate agent serving the Tacoma and Puyallup area. And today on the podcast is Kevin Manning with Manning Excavation. And I'm really excited for this one because you never know when you need an excavator. So at the end of today, now you'll know when you need an excavator. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you for having me, Nickie.
Yeah, you bet.
This is a great opportunity. And it's been a pleasure talking to you and then get invited onto your podcast.
Right.
So I look forward to it. My name's Kevin Manning, and I'm the owner of Manning Excavation.
How did you start in excavation?
Shoot, I started doing side projects like in high school. And
Like just helping neighbors, friends called you?
Yeah, like my parents. I started off doing like a paver patio, and they rented a mini excavator. And after that, I was hooked. Like, I'd always would try and get on equipment. Like, I would have family friends who worked in construction, and I'd go as a kid and go sit on their lap and run equipment, at the end of their day, and it was a blast.
Yeah.
And so then, I had done this one side project, and I started telling people, like, hey, like, if you rent a piece of equipment, I'll ohad for free. Like,
oh, that's
I don't
so
even,
cool.
like, you don't need to pay me. Like, I just want to do the work.
Yeah.
And I'd lived by this guy who had a produce stand, and he was clearing his land. He was fumbling around, so same thing. I told him, like, hey, if you rent me a piece of equipment, like, let's get this thing leveled out and cleared. And sure enough, he did. And that was great. And then, a few other just side projects, like clearing out bushes for people or whatever. And then I bought a house, right? Fortunate to buy a house, but then I had an asset to lose.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I was torn. I was like, all right, I love doing this work.
Yeah, but you can't work for free.
But A, I can't work for free, and 2, I can't have something happen. Like before, okay, take my truck. I'll file bankruptcy. No problem. But now it was like, I need to be, licensed, bond insured, everything, and start a legitimate business. So started just ticking and tying, forming an LLC, starting the business, starting to get equipment slowly but surely. And I'd started it during COVID, so it was it was a task. Like, to try and find a dump trailer during that time was almost impossible.
They were all checked out.
I was looking all the way in Washington, Oregon, Utah.
Seriously?
Yeah, Montana, Idaho, California, like everywhere. And then finally found one in Eastern Washington, called the lady up. I was like, I'll be there at noon tomorrow. And she was like, I've had 6 people offer me, for this trailer. She was like, I've had 6 people offer to buy this just in the 12 hours that we've spoke. And I was like, well, I'm here. So I was able to get it. And then, just started out doing work part-time. Mm-hmm. And that was probably the coolest feeling, was getting paid for the first time to actually...
Getting paid to be on the heavy machinery.
Getting paid, and then especially just owning one. I was like, I thought this would be a dream one day, or, this would happen in my 50s, but never mind, here we are. And so I was doing the first job that I did. This family had, like, this massive brick chimney and their backyard patio, and they demoed it all, which was great, but then it left them this massive pile of debris. Yeah. And then they had the aha moment of, oh no, like, how are we going to get rid of this? And, it was, 8 trailers full.
Oh my gosh.
It was tens of thousands of pounds of material. And so, we were able to clear it all out and get it out for them. But that was that was like that realization, like, okay, like, normally I'm going to help people who have a problem, and those problems can be huge, like this huge pile of bricks or concrete, or it could be water issues, or it could be space issues, or just, hey, I don't want to get poked by all these blackberry bushes, can you just come rip them out, and so first it always just seemed like, all right, it's just work, but then it was like, all right, it's helping people with problems that they have and coming up with a solution with them to help whatever they need. And so I did it about part-time for a year, just doing jobs on the side. And then too, I'd started working with a concrete partner that I work with now. And then eventually he came to me and was like, hey, like, I need a full-time excavation partner. It's me, a landscaper, some framers, like, but I need you on weekdays, not just weekends. And I was like, oh no, I gotta quit my job. Oh. And And so I did. I was like, all right, you know
Yeah.
what? We're just going to take that leap and do it.
Whoa.
And, yeah, which was wild because I was at my job prior to that for 13 years. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
That was huge.
very established. I had a great career opportunity, and I was like, you know what? Follow what you love to do.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID, I think that was one big thing that also had helped pushed it, where I was just like,
Yeah.
you know, your life can really like change and turn around. So why not do something that you love to do?
Yeah.
And that's one thing. Like, I've known I've been passionate about heavy equipment since a young child, have always loved it. And, I mean, I'd be driving down the freeway and I can spot a piece of equipment, you know, on a trailer, a job site, someone's yard way down there. I absolutely love it. And so, it's sort of what had it all come together was, yeah, just wanting to do a change in my career, follow something that I want to do. And like I said, takes time, but eventually just, you know, slowly but surely just stick with it.
Yeah.
And I was even content just doing it part-time. I was like, you know what, this is, you know, cool for right now, but then be able to have the opportunity to really just go full-time with it.
That's awesome.
Has been huge. And then just the opportunities of learning about business. And I mean, there's so many things you find out about yourself and about just all these different things about, you know, I didn't know you needed business cards and websites and apparel and all these things where you're just like, where do I start?
Right? I need my logo to not just be my name.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I need my company name to not be my personal name, and then
Just all these little things that you don't know what you're getting into until you start. And so it's been a pretty wild and exciting, you know, ride.
Yeah.
And I love it.
That's
you know?
awesome.
And so, yeah, and with excavation, the other piece about it too is just there's a hole right now where a lot of people aren't going into the trades or into labor jobs. And so there is that high demand for it. And prior to working in this, I was working in sales, and that was not my jam. I mean, I'm still in sales. I got to sell myself,
Yeah,
right?
you are.
But being sort of stuck to like a margin and this and that, I just wasn't getting that fulfillment where I like a more tangible, you know.
Oh, well, gosh, now you get to see the evidence of your work.
Exactly.
And you get to see the client that you served, and you know the relief that you brought to them. It's huge.
Yeah, you know, and like I think that's what I really enjoy about it too, is just, you know, working with tons of different people. And, you know, I mean, you have someone who they might just want to change their backyard for aesthetics or for personal use. Or I might get a call like, hey, I've got a water line that's broken right now, and, you know, I got a plumber that's here to fix it. Can you come out and dig it? You know?
Yeah.
No problem. Or I had a neighbor who had called, and same thing. It was a well line that was cracked, and it was at his mom's house, and he was like, she needs water. So he was like, you know, could you come out tomorrow?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, it's like, let's make it work. And so people just have different needs, whether it's an emergency or just sort of what they want to do. Or like I said, people just have a problem that, you know, they're just above in their head, where they're just like, hey, I thought I was going to be able to move all of this material, and after a few yards of it, or, you know, a trailer or two, gets pretty tiring. So it's like, all right, cool.
Couple wheelbarrows.
Oh,
you think it's a wheelbarrow job, and then it's not.
And it's definitely not. No. So, yeah, just the wide variety of jobs and reasons why people come to you.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a ton of reasons for people to call you.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
because we were talking just before the podcast started, like, I thought it was really just, let's look at water and dirt moving, but you're actually so much more than that, because I didn't realize you could remove blackberries.
oh yeah,
So-
you know, definitely a wide variety. So I typically do like foundation digs, drainage work. We got a lot of water here in the Pacific Northwest, so water problems are typically...
Right, and it seems like water problems, especially drainage work, like yard-based drainage work, whatever, you may have had a solution 10 years ago, and it's just not working anymore.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know, the older corrugated pipes will fill in, or roots will protrude, and, you know, sediment and everything just gets in there and blocks them up.
Yeah.
And so just depending on the type of like drainage system that you have, you can either go through and clear it, or sometimes it'll just give out. I mean,
Right, and then your driveway ages.
Yeah.
It cracks, and now it settled into, well, now there's a mud puddle.
Yeah,
in the middle of your driveway.
Exactly. Or yeah, roots are underneath, and
Yeah.
crack your driveway, and it starts sinking and settling, and all of that.
All that.
And so yeah, tons of issues, or tons of issues, I guess, that we go through and solve for people. And like I said, they do vary, from some to just be casual, others on a more emergency need, or a lot more prioritized, where hey, I need you out tomorrow. And so logistically it can be sometimes this bouncing ball of just managing different jobs. And sometimes you'll get people who are willing to go through and push their project out, and this and that. The other issue is just sometimes materials, or weather. Weather is also a very big constraint that I battle. My season is typically spring through fall.
Okay.
Wintertime, I don't know. A lot of people don't want to start projects prior to the holidays. So typically
I can see that. November is
okay to start wrapping stuff up, but
December,
to start projects,
don't tear up my yard in December.
Yeah, I'll tell people hey, if you're gonna have people over, or depending what you're doing, we may need to push your project into spring.
Yeah.
I was doing a retaining wall for this lady, and she had also wanted her yard graded out and put topsoil down so she could reseed her grass and all of that. Well, I'd done the retaining wall in late October, early November. Yeah. And when I got there, I told her, I said, hey, we should really look at doing the regrading and all of that in the spring. And she was like, I really want it done. And I told her, I was like, look, I don't want to talk myself out of work right now. I said, but I also don't want you mad at me if, we lay this topsoil and it all washes away. I was like, because you're not going to be able to get grass seeded, and you're going to have...
Or have you guys come out twice.
Yeah. I was
and have to pay you twice.
Exactly. And so after explaining it to her, and she was like, all right, perfect. Let's reschedule. Yeah. And we'll just do this in springtime. That way she can get grass seeded and all of that. And so it worked out.
It look terrible during the winter.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, I would much rather tell someone, hey, I would advise not to do this right now, and let's do it later when it's when it's more doable. I mean, especially water with, excavation, you're battling it. Whether it's digging a trench, you're going to bring in sump pumps, and you're pumping water out, and then you're a wet cat all day, just soaked head to toe. And so I don't prefer that. But yeah, so I mean, people don't like to start projects before the holidays. And then after the holidays, same thing. People are, laying low, they just got through with it. Right. And so it sort of starts ramping up towards tax season, once people are starting to get their returns. But even then, you'll have some terrible weeks, in March and April, and some of those. So it's
you'll have the surprise snow in March.
Exactly.
You'll have one weird freeze and be like, I can't dig right now.
Yeah, I can't dig through frozen ground. And so just many little factors that can sometimes, alter someone's project, or just postpone it. And like I said, I would rather just advise someone, hey, this is, probably how we should go about it in planning and all of this. So, I don't know, projects can vary as far as, like I said, from the immediate to be needed, or it can be a planned out and pushed out plan.
Right. So for someone that maybe just bought their house and they're like, okay, I've made it through the first year, I know what I don't like about this yard. Then now's probably a good time to talk to you about, here's what I'm thinking. Here's the grand scheme of things. And then between you and your network, be like, okay, well, we could do retaining wall. We could do a nice slope that's better managed. We can get rid of that pile of dead trees over there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the one thing. I guess each project is going to have its own sort of timeline. I've had projects where I've gone and talked to customers about what they want to do, or what their vision is and how they want to do it. And sometimes that can be 2 months away from the time they start a project, or it could even be a year. that retaining wall and yard that I was just talking about, I had gone and looked at that a year prior to even doing the retaining wall aspect of it. So
Okay.
realistically, I've been in contact with this customer for a year and a half.
Wow. Are
And
you on their
so-
Christmas card list?
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll find out this one.
We'll find out.
I think so. No. And so it just varies on their timeline and their urgency to get it done. And then, too, there is a lot of planning that goes into it. I mean, a lot of the times if I'm coming in with equipment and stuff, I mean, it's typically a larger project or, a massive undertaking that's, going to be a pretty big change.
Yeah.
And like I said, just depends what they want. And then sometimes, coordinating with landscapers or concrete or, what do you want?
And they're also sometimes weather dependent.
Highly weather dependent.
Well,
I mean,
heat, moisture.
yeah,
all
I do a
kinds of
lot of
stuff.
work with a concrete contractor. That's part of the network that I work with. And I mean, concrete is one of those ones where it is very weather dependent. You only got one shot to get it done.
To get it done right.
And you want it done right. You absolutely want it done right. Otherwise, I have to come out and rip it out, and you don't want that. But I do love it when someone's like, "Hey, I've got this problem, and I need it fixed."
Yeah.
And then just working with them on a solution for what's going to be best fit for them and their house. That's the other thing too is just the different issues that every house has as far as.
Oh, they sure do.
Yeah, I mean, there was a house I was doing. I got a call, and the guy had water coming in from his foundation and this and that. And so the contractor that I was working with, him and I were looking around, and I was like, yeah, it's August. There's a lot of water back here for it being August.
That's terrible.
It hasn't rained in months, weeks or months.
Definitely weeks.
Yeah, definitely weeks in August. And turns out he has a natural spring in his backyard.
Oh.
And yeah.
Did he know?
He had an idea, but he wasn't 100% sure. He thought maybe someone had a broken water pipe from up above.
Okay.
And so he ended up going and asking his neighbors, like, hey, is your water meter just continuously running? And they're like, no, we have no issues. And sure enough, we were just able to find, water just keep on trickling through.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so we had to do like a few different French drains throughout his yard that all tied in to just try and capture the water at all these different spots, and then also one along his foundation as an additional perimeter drain, as just sort of like that line of last defense. Like, all right, we've got these two others in the back that are catching water off the hill, but just in case, we'll put this right here. And so, I mean, just tons of different reasons, and some you just don't even expect.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was just a call about water in the foundation, and then looking at it more, I was like, you've got a lot more water than just the stuff that's coming in. So,
wow.
Yeah, looking at those, or you just got people who, I mean, myself included, I did drainage at my house just because I was tired of the standing water in my yard. So I was like, all right, let's just fix
Enough
this.
already.
Yeah, enough of it. Like, I'm tired of stepping out of the car in the driveway. And
and there's a wet spot.
Just
right here.
Yeah, I don't want to track it
here.
in. Yeah, right there at the edge. So, it's just really helpful being able to help others and myself and friends and family.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the huge things that I love about what I do.
That's awesome.
I absolutely, I don't mind being dirty. I'll tell people, I'll be there to get dirty when you don't want to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I like working with my hands. Yeah. And like you said, seeing that result of, okay, there was this yard and, it was okay, but now here we've got this beautiful retaining wall and paver patio. Yeah. And just seeing that end result and seeing people happy with it is just another huge benefit of what I do. And I love that feeling.
Yay.
And then too, I tell people I get to be a big kid every day. I get to pull levers and play in the dirt and play with tractors. I don't know what else I could ask for.
Right? So to all the parents of little boys that are obsessed with big tractors, get in there. Do it.
Yeah, do it. Do it. It's, I mean, like I said, it's in high demand. There's not too many people that are going towards just, construction or trade industries. Yeah. And so there's huge opportunities for people. And yeah, I mean, shoot, even my parents, like, I, as a kid, they had told me, like, are you sure you really want to go into construction and this and that?
Yeah.
Um, and that almost deterred me. Well, it did deter me for a little bit, out of high school. I had tried going down to the operators union, and I mean, it was full, but it was also at the tail end of the recession, so there wasn't a whole lot of building going on.
Yeah.
And so then, I went and worked at a produce company and loved it.
Yeah.
Had really enjoyed it. The one thing that was sort of like, I was like, all right, I got to at least be on a forklift. I was like, I need some type of some type of equipment. And so that was my one little, like, request, or, like, that was the one thing that I needed to make sure was fulfilled. And I did, and I loved it. I did love working with food. And I loved that past, experience. But definitely, I would just tell people, if you have a passion for something, just follow that.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that, if you, like I said, I've wanted to do this since I was a young kid.
Yeah.
And so if you have that, like, passion identified, follow it, because it's so much, it's just a rewarding feeling. Knowing that, you're doing something that you love to do. Every day doesn't feel like work. It just...
that is so great.
Yeah.
It can be really challenging.
It can be challenging, I mean, and, right, we'll take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
There's definitely days that do feel like work. And it is physical labor, so it is work. But, I'd say 90% of the jobs and stuff that I do are just knock out of the park. I love them. And so easy to work with people, whether it's residential or commercial, because I'll do light commercial work and stuff like that, which has its differences, but you're still interacting with people, and whether it's a business owner or facility manager, anything like that, you still get that interaction with people. So it's just, it's a great opportunity, a nice experience. And then too, there's so many different things that you can do. I know that's how we had started talking, was sort of just like upgrades that you can do to your house. Yeah. Whether you're selling it or buying it. Like, I know I've done a few, like, gravel driveways for people that are about to sell their house, and they don't want to have people coming in and bumping on this road,
Yes, especially
on their
when
new
they're
driveway.
they're in their country house, their private driveway, and like, okay, well, that hasn't been graded in a few years.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's been a few of the jobs that I've done where real estate agents have called and, hey, we need this driveway, retouched up and regraded. We need to get these potholes out of here and stuff. And so little fixes like that, I feel like, go a long way.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, especially if you're pulling into a house, something like that really just is a small little touch, but it goes a long way.
Right? You're part of the curb appeal.
Exactly. If
I can't access the house, forget it.
Yeah,
you're making that possible.
And two, it's just one of those, like, relatively low cost, right? Depending on size of driveway. If you've got
how many miles?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have a half a mile driveway,
driveway?
It's gonna be a little bit more than someone who has an 80-foot, driveway. So, it does depend, but stuff like that, I do feel like I've ran into where it does help. Like, I do work with quite a bit of real estate agents, and or same thing, they'll call and they'll say, hey, I need to, I was doing this job out in Lakewood, and real estate agent called, like, hey, I'm trying to sell this house, but same thing, we got water coming from the foundation. I need a drain right away, and at least, so we could show that we're doing everything to mitigate this, and then also just resolve the problem that we do have currently. So, I don't know, I do feel like, my job does go hand in hand with real estate agents and just homeowners in general. If you want to go through and clear out the side of a house and just make the curb appeal look better, if you want all these weeds gone.
Or you have a homeowner that calls and says, I got a shed. I've got a shed I don't want. I inherited this ugly thing. Come and take it away.
Exactly, and I've got that call before, and it was, they needed 2 sheds demoed, and I was like, I'll be there, and all of a sudden, the lady had expected me to show up, which was like a sledgehammer and a hacksaw, and showed up with the excavator, and I was like, trust me, you don't want this, right? Because it's not going to be here.
It will not be usable.
It will not be usable, and she was like, she was shocked, but also she was like, well, this is much quicker and this and that. And I was like, oh, for sure. So, Yeah, demo is definitely one thing that I also do offer. Whether it's like sheds or houses or people who are replacing their driveways. Love making driveways disappear. I
Ugly driveways.
ugly driveways, yes. But yeah, this guy had given me a call and he was like, "Hey, I just jackhammered my whole driveway." He was like, "I
Did he not have a plan for what to do with the pieces?
Exactly. He
Oh,
was
gosh.
like, I thought I was going to be able to just like truck these out, and
Oh no.
and I mean, shoot, it was like 5 trailers for me, and so I was like, would have been a lot more truckloads for you.
Holy cow. And heavy too.
Oh, concrete's
Oh my
extremely
gosh.
heavy. Extremely heavy. Yeah. It was, I mean, shoot, 5 trucks, so probably about 50,000 pounds or so worth of concrete. And
It's
so, yeah, it just, like I say, you run into that where people will just like, I'm starting this project. And, he had a concrete guy to pour the concrete
Right.
and frame it, but he didn't have the solution to get rid of the existing
gosh.
concrete. And he was like,
Wow.
"Oh, I don't have a driveway anymore." And I was like, "You sure don't?" I was like, "You sure don't." And he's like, "Well, so how soon can you be out here?" And I was like, "All right,
So you're the best friend of spontaneous people.
Yes, yeah." It seemed that is another one where people are like, "Let's get this done," and then they're like, "Ooh, all right, this is a bit more than I anticipated." Yeah, or if people have material dropped off. I know we were talking about someone who had gravel dropped off, and it was just, at first it seems like, okay, it's just a pile of gravel.
It's not
It
a
can't
big
be
deal.
that much. And
Oh,
it's
it
like,
is.
oh, well, it's probably 10,000 pounds
Right.
if it's,
Yeah.
5 yards or so of gravel, and that gets tiresome in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
So,
gosh, it does. Wow. So what areas do you serve? How far can you go?
I travel. So
Ooh, did you hear that, everybody?
I travel. Let's see, a few weeks ago I was in Camano Island, which is pretty far from down
Whoa.
here. And then the following Monday I was over in Puyallup. So
Holy cow, you do travel.
I do travel. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't mind traveling for work, and stuff like that around this area. Like, I know I got a job that I've been talking to someone about clearing some land out in Tenino. So, yeah, whether it's south or north, I've gone out to the peninsula a little bit, done some jobs out there. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm willing to travel, and help people out. So, yeah, my
Awesome.
area is abroad.
Okay, so your area is call you first.
Yeah, call me first. Yeah.
And then we'll see what's up.
And then we'll see. Yeah. So, and it's not too bad. I mean, I'm based out of Auburn, so I'm pretty centrally located.
Oh, that
I
is
can
nice. Yeah.
make it up to Seattle. I do quite a bit of work. I'd say a lot of my work is in Seattle or like Bellevue, Redmond, those areas. And then slowly but surely starting to get a lot more down south.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wherever people need me,
That
I'll
sounds
go.
great. I know, right? That's kind of my thing. I've sold houses in 5 counties.
Yeah.
So okay, I've already done that.
Right? If the work's there, let's go. So,
Right? You call me and I'll just calculate what's the drive time.
yeah, I mean, the biggest benefit to it too, that I do feel like that allows me to be able to cover such large ground or just, such a large space is that it is just me. The other benefit to working with like the partners that I do work with is I'm able to go through and hire their guys or, pool labor together. And so that sort of like ties back into like why I was able to quit and go full time. Was having just this partnership with a wide variety of, other contractors and other businesses where, there's been some larger projects where we all come in together and we're all able to, get onto this and do a larger job, or I can still do smaller jobs. So a lot of the time I get people who will call and they'll be like, hey, like, I got this, but is it too small? And I'm like, look, here's the benefit. I'm small.
Yeah.
And so that part's nice because I can go through and don't mind going to people's backyards and doing these smaller jobs. And so there's that benefit as well as being able to do larger jobs or just offer jobs that aren't necessarily in my scope. So like concrete, having a trusted concrete partner is huge.
Yeah.
Because those go hand in hand with dirt work. I mean, I do all of his grading and fine, work before he comes through and frames and pours. And so typically I'm on to the next job while they're doing their
Right.
portion, and then it's just a sort of cycle.
Yeah.
Which has been, like I said, a huge benefit.
I'm sure to both of you, because now you've got the same clients and you can provide a holistic view of start to finish.
Exactly. And then too, just understanding, the expectations
Yeah.
of just like, hey, this is how I expect my, foundations to be dug.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I need, these extra space for forms and all these little things that, I wouldn't have known without really working without working with a concrete guy.
Right? If you're working with some unknown guys coming after you, then you're like, well, this is the best I can do.
Or just,
Or this is my method.
Or if some people, like people just want wider space for forms, or they'll want it tighter. It just sort of varies, or just tolerances, So they all vary, but it is nice just working consistently with people. Like you said, you just sort of get that rhythm, and everyone knows how each operates. And so that part has been a tremendous help, So yeah, no, there's not necessarily anything like too small. There has been a few times where, I'll get a job or like called out to go take a look, and this lady had a few dirt work projects, which, sitting there talking to her about like, okay, we could do this. If you want this patio, we could run this out. But then all of a sudden she was like, hey, like, could you mow the lawn twice a week? Could you come back and do the gutters? I got some lights that need to be hung. And I was like, I'm not a handyman.
Yeah.
I was like, I can help you with these few things, but I was like, let me try and, reach around, see who needs, who I might know, who could help you out. There's a ton of people who need a handyman.
Yes, there are.
That seems to be a very common...
Yeah, but we know a lot of handymen.
We do a little, yes. Luckily, we know a lot of handymen.
A lot of them like, okay, well, who do you want? Here's my, pick a card.
Yeah, pick a card, take a card.
Right. All of these are handymen. They're
exactly. And so, sometimes, having a refer workout or just, definitely put your foot down and just say, look, like, this is out of my scope.
Is what I don't do.
Yeah, and that was my whole thing. I was like, look, like, I just don't have the time to come through and do here. I told her, I said, hey, what a cool opportunity. It's a beautiful property.
Right.
And then too, just, she sort of seemed to like give you that freedom to sort of just, if you were to go there and help out, you could sort of do your own thing and, just maintain the property. And like I said, it was a really cool property, and she has some really cool design, like ideas of putting in these orchards and this and that.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, and making like a nice little like garden. So I was like, this would be really cool, for someone who's like either like younger or just really could invest the time into it. So, but unfortunately that wasn't me.
Yeah.
So, so there's definitely, and then there's other projects where, there will be people and it's like, all right, here, we'll get you a framer or someone that can build a deck,
Oh, you wanted a patio cover on top of the patio that I'm prepping for.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Here's a card.
Exactly. Here's a card, get you in contact with someone that could build that.
Yeah.
And stuff. So
you're putting a deck. Okay, here's a card.
Yeah, and that's one thing too that I definitely took a little bit of time, but sort of stay in your lane.
Yes.
Stay in your lane and just...
even though your particular lane is really broad. You do a lot of stuff.
I do a lot of stuff, and then eventually I'd like to get mostly into doing like dirt work, like land clearing, utility trenching, foundation work.
Yeah.
More of that larger like excavation type of stuff, and drainage. Drainage, my number one. That's my
we will never not need drainage.
We will not never need drainage. So yeah, that is, I'd say, probably the bulk of what I do. I get most calls for drainage, and at first I was like, dude, I'm not a plumber. But then all of a sudden, after talking to a few people, I'm like, well, they're not going to call the dirt guy to come have it dug and then call a plumber and then have you come back. He was like, you better learn drainage. So, or, just get comfortable with it. Yeah. And I have, and I really enjoy it now.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's just all those little learning curves and, and then too, just, the variety of projects, because some are just a small drainage project, and then others, there was a job out in Gig Harbor I was doing, and we were connecting all the like catch basins for their whole drainage system and running all the drainage along their driveway and throughout their house. Like, it was quite a bit, it was a large project, and And it was just really cool to be part of that as
Yeah.
well. So, and just get that opportunity.
Yeah.
So, no, it's been, and like you said, there's tons of other things that I do offer. And like you said, it is a wide scope, but also pretty narrow. You know, ladders, I don't do ladders. I found that out once again. I stepped out of my comfort zone, was helping out
Did
another.
something.
Oh, I was trying to help out a contractor who I've worked with, and he's helped me out. So I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? Hey, you know, I'll take this week. I'll help you out. He was like, I got to do this window washing job, and he was like, I just need you to clean the screens. Go, I can clean screens.
Okay.
Till all of a sudden, it's 56 apartment buildings, and a lot of these windows are 3 stories high, and I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I told him, I was like, dude, I don't do heights. I was
Oh
like,
gosh.
what? And like, I told him, I said, dude, this was just like the worst week. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to lie to you. This is not my gig. I was like, he's like, you'll get comfortable on ladders. Nah. No. He was like, after the 3rd day, he was like, you're not getting comfortable on ladders.
Nope, not gonna happen.
Yeah, and so he was like, you know what? I'll take care of the tall ones, and
Yeah.
you know, we'll figure out a system and this and that, but stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. So where can people find you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me. I've got a website. Best way to get a hold of me though is call or text.
Okay.
Yeah, my number's on Facebook. I've got Instagram. Like I said, my website. Working on getting my Google page set up.
I know it's surprisingly challenging.
I need to get yeah. Well, you don't realize all the like back coding that goes into it, and I mean, clearly I'm not a computer expert. Like I said, I play in the dirt all day. I'm not a techie. And so once I realized how much is involved with it, it's not just I'll go sign up for Google. There's a
Right.
lot more involved. And same thing even just with a website, you know. Got a website up and going and this and that, but you just don't realize all those little ins and outs. But that's another benefit to the networking groups is, you know, you get this.
I don't have to know. Someone else does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the huge piece is, like I said, I'll stay in my lane and someone can take theirs and help me out with that. And so, and that's also just part of running a business, and you learn those things where it's like, hey, I'm going to try this on my own. And then you realize like, ooh,
Yeah.
this is a bit out of what I, you know, am used to. Or like SEO. I was like, what is that? I was, you know, like, what are you guys talking about? But, yeah, so I'm in the work in progress to get a Google page set up. That way I could start getting reviews and all of that. But yeah, call and text, that's definitely the easiest. Email, another way to reach out, or just, Facebook Messenger, Instagram.
Great.
Any of those.
Yeah.
So multiple ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome.
But yeah, call and text is definitely.
That's your preferred.
That's my preferred.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just direct. I like phone calls, you know, and all of that. So it's easier to have a conversation over the phone. And then too, I do like to come out, like every job I like to come take a look at, whether it's you know, small or large.
Not just send
or,
pictures. You
or
want
if
to come
it's
and see it in
far.
person.
Yeah, you know, one thing that definitely can sort of like spin a project is access. Like I'll tell people, access is going to be the number one thing.
Yeah.
Can I get equipment back here?
Yeah.
That right there is going to be, you know, but then there's so many other factors, like, you know, especially with heavy equipment, you're, you know, looking at overhead power lines or just any type of like overhead obstructures. You got to call
trees,
811,
reflines,
get, you know, all your locates done. Sort of goes back to like why I started the business and formed it, is there's a lot of risk, you know, and it's easy to go through and hit an underground electrical line or even an above power line, or, you know, water, electric, gas. That's, you know, hopefully never gas.
Hopefully.
Yeah, you know, communications, those are the easiest, right? You know, but then at the same time too, though, you know, one other thing that I've learned is problems are going to happen.
Yeah.
But as long as you can go through upfront with it. Hey, here's a mistake, but here's the solution.
Yeah.
You know, I've had that before where, digging, and all of a sudden there was an underground line that wasn't marked and hit it, and all of a sudden it was, you know, told the building owner, like, hey, by the way, we hit this power line that's running out here to this pole. Got an electrician that's coming out tomorrow. We already made the call.
Yeah.
But here, you're informed.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing to go through and remedy this to make it right. So it's going to happen. There's a lot that you can do to mitigate it, of course, but yeah, going out and taking a look at a job site, like I'll get a lot of people that are just like, oh, I'll just send you pictures, and that is great, at least to just get an idea for it. But like I said, for me, really, it's about, can I get equipment in there, or do I need to rent smaller equipment, or what equipment is needed for this job? It's not just always going to be like an excavator. Sometimes you need a skid steer. Sometimes you might need a trencher.
Yeah.
All these different little things that going and getting like an actual feel for the job. Or sometimes too, if someone's like, hey, I got this massive hill in my yard. Okay, well, hills can range.
Massive hill.
Yeah, some of them can be, this small little slope, and it's like, okay, cool, we can grade this out and not really have to do a whole lot. Where others, it's like, all right, if we dig into this hill, we're going to have to hold it back. So now we're putting a retaining wall, and then looking at it and, could this just be a block wall, or do you need like an engineered concrete wall?
Right.
Like, what type of hill are you holding back here?
Yeah, and the casual observer, the casual homeowner,
Yeah.
most people who aren't professionals in walls and concrete,
Yeah.
we don't know.
And they might not know. Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing too. Or some people, they'll want like a giant wall and not understand that, there's height requirements where it's just, after a certain height, you need to have an architectural design and all of this, which, is great. It's doable, but it just adds more cost. And, and it's there for people's safety, I mean, you want to make sure it's engineered right, it has drainage or geofabric to go through and hold everything back. You don't want that wall to collapse. So, and just explaining that to people as well is just sort of walking them through and saying, hey, like there is this extra, there's going to be this extra piece, or you need to get permits for this. And so just walking through and talking to people about that, and those are other things that go through and push people's projects either further back or sometimes can expedite it, which also then affects their decision making.
It does.
Do they want to put this massive wall in their backyard and have an architect coming through and design it, and then to a certain extent it's like, all right, we're not just going to do a block wall, we're going to do a concrete wall for this, and it just depends what they're looking for, and like I said, just going through and working with each other and trying to figure out, like, okay, what's your end goal, and is it exactly how you want it, or are there are going to be a few changes that we need to make in order to make it work, for everybody. Yeah. So a lot of time and planning goes into it, and so said sometimes it can be just 2 weeks out, or it could be a year out, or anything like that.
So if homeowner is in their backyard dreaming pretty soon, because good weather's coming. Good weather's
here.
coming.
Yes,
it's like tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the time to start.
So by the time this podcast comes out, the good weather is here. You're out in your backyard and you're thinking something could be better.
Yeah.
Then that's a good time to call you.
Exactly. I would love to hear what people have or what they want out of their backyard. Yeah. And love to sit down and talk to them and sort of work through it as far as, this or that. And it also depends too. I mean, there's some, if people really want like a high-end like backyard project, that's when typically like I'll call my landscaper who he has a design team and they can do all that. Yeah. So it depends on all of that. If someone's like, hey, I want this patio, okay, no problem, I can do that. But if someone's like, hey, I really want this, I want lighting, I want, these parabola stretcher or structures and stuff like that. Right. I
want sculpted edge English garden with a patio.
Exactly. Okay. So that's when all of a sudden, like, I'll call up, Chris with Wolf and Sons, and I'll say, hey, look, I got this project, you want to come take a look at it? Here's what they want. And, him and his design team, they'll take a look at it and we'll work together on it. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's some jobs like that where, like you said, hey, give me the call, but we also might just wrap other people into it because,
because really you're the expert of, you heard the request,
Yeah.
And you're already knowing, oh, that is not just me. That's like 4 of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I'm not a designer.
Yeah.
You know, it's one
Right,
of those
like
things.
I can call you and say, I have a big rock.
Yes.
Come and take it.
Come take the rock away. Yeah, yes, I do love rocks.
I do have a few big rocks.
I love taking rocks and building my rock wall at the house. But
you can take mine.
yeah, and just stuff like that where people are like, hey, I want this rock gone, or
Yeah.
you know, something small like that. It's easy to just go through and take away. Mm-hmm. Or a lot of the times too, yeah, if I'm on jobs and, you know, all of a sudden people have like a few other little requests, and I'll tell them like, hey, look, you know, if I'm here and with a piece of equipment, it's a lot easier to get it done now.
Yeah.
And that is another thing too, like that like I'll recommend to people, if you're going to have like a project, especially if it's a larger project, sometimes doing it in phases makes sense, but then sometimes it doesn't, because if you already have equipment and all of that out there, it's easier instead of having to have someone come back and they're, you know, gonna have to remobilize and get everything back out there, get all their tools and gear and everything. Tear up your yard, exactly. You know, that was one thing. Back to that retaining wall and grading. The lady, she had water in her yard, and so she was like, well, eventually I'd like to get drainage done. And I was like, all right. And that's where, and that was also
right. Good thing she said that.
Well, yeah, so I told her, I was like, look, like, you know, I already have the equipment here. And that's where we had pushed out regrading her yard until spring. And so I told her, I said, hey, look, since we're already going to regrade your yard, let's just put the drainage in now. Let's do this step first.
Yeah.
Instead, because, you know, I was like, look, if all of a sudden we regrade this and reseed it and then I have to come back and destroy it, we're back to square one. So, and those are some of those other things where I told her, like, hey, look, since I'm here, let's get it done. Yeah. It's going to be easier than me having to come back, re-rip, you know. So some of those, like, those stages or planning, it does really come in handy to, like, talk to someone and just, you know, or to, like I said, I wasn't aware of it until she had mentioned, like, hey, I've been thinking about this.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, all right, hold on, let's do that, and then we'll do the yard. So, little things like that can definitely save you down the road. And then there's just other times too where it's like, hey, look, if we're gonna do the concrete, let's do your drainage, let's do X, Y, and Z, whatever you want done. But having it all done right now is gonna be cheaper in the long run.
Yes, yes, it is.
You know, or if people want to do like the front and then maybe the back later, same thing where it's like, you know.
Sometimes it makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes it doesn't make sense. But if it's like something where it's going to get you, you know, like if you're doing a front and a back, but you can have a full cement truck there, you know, that's going to save you in the long run instead of paying for 2 short loads. So it's some of those ones where it's like, all right, it might be a little bit more upfront, but it's going to cost, you know, it's going to save you in the overall project that you have going on. So, yeah, I mean, each project's different. Each one needs sort of its own attention to detail. And really just, it dials down to, like, what does the customer want? And, like, you know, especially with their end result, or what is their plan? And having a customer that has that idea is great, you know, and even if they don't, you know, at least you can talk through them with it, like, hey, like, is this what you're going for? Is this what you want?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And so, like I said, planning is definitely a major part of it. And then it's sometimes super easy where people just want a stump removed, and all right, well, let's just yank that out. Yeah. So, yeah, no, awesome. It's been a very, like I said, fun and exciting.
You do have a really fun job.
It is fun. Yeah. And it's not as, like, I don't know, I've had a lot of people like, that must just be really relaxing. But then, like I said, like, I'm like, absolutely not, you know?
Yeah.
That's the other thing, too, that I got very accustomed to, was people watching me work, you know? Especially either A, people are intrigued by equipment.
Yeah.
Or B, people are like, yo, hey, like, you're right by my house. And, you know, and I'll tell people, like, as much as I do love it, there is, you know, you are very focused. You know, there's a lot of damage that you can cause, and there's, you know, there's a lot that goes into it where, you know, these machines are extremely heavy. they can tip, they can, there's a lot of different ways that you can have to manipulate the weight of them in order to get everything done. And then, yeah, like I said, the gas, power,
So you're
water.
not really too relaxed. You're just probably really in the zone.
You're very in the zone.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not just this like,
It's not therapeutic.
La-di-da-di. Yeah, yeah, it's therapeutic in a sense, but no, you are very focused, and you do have to realize the risks that are involved, and especially if you've got people that you're working with, or someone's down on the ground working there with you always got to make sure to keep them in mind and where they're at. Things can go wrong very fast, so it is one of those ones where it's like, I understand why people typically take the day off when equipment arrives, so I'm like, hey, no problem. I totally get it. And then too, like I said, it's just, or there's people who are truly fascinated. There was this homeowners that we were building a rock wall for, and they were like, we gave up our tickets to a concert tonight just so we could finish watching you guys work. They were like, this is really cool. And, which that felt good, right?
And houses with little kids.
Oh yeah. And I love that. And that just sort of reminds me of just like, I love when little kids just get excited about it, right? Because I was a kid and I always got excited seeing equipment and stuff. And so that's one thing that, always just makes me smile is, you'll see kids that are just in awe, and it's just like...
Nose on the window.
I love that feeling. Yeah, like, it's like, I know that feeling. I've been there before, and that is one that is just a huge, just other reward where it's like... seeing other people smile or this or that. Or two, like, I love teaching my friends and family, like, how to operate. I'll be like, come over to my house and dig up my backyard. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
For fun.
Dig a 10-foot hole. I don't care. Yeah, have at it. Like, when I got it, I taught my parents, my friends, anybody, if you want to come over and learn, like, so we'll teach you how to operate. Like, no. So it's been a tremendous experience. That's and then cool. I just truly feel fortunate to be able to do what I love to do every day. Yeah. So it's been a fun ride, and I look forward to just keep growing and learning every day. Every day is, a day at school. Yeah. So
it's whether it's in business ownership or
business
the
or just
unique
personal
job.
Unique jobs, and just taking all those experiences from other jobs and bringing that into the next one. And then too, just the personal growth or just opportunities of meeting people, whether it's homeowners or business owners, and networking. I love the networking aspect that I've really got to dive into over the last few years.
Yeah, because you never know.
Yeah, you never know, A, who you're going to meet, or B, what they're going to need, or two, you never know, later down the road, eventually it could be, hey, I do have this project coming up, you know what, let's give Kevin a call. Yeah. And then two, we were talking about it earlier, just having a resource of people and other businesses to just help others, hey, if you need a plumber, great. I got an excellent plumber who I work with all the time. It's great having that referral base. Yeah. And, that is, because like you said, a lot of projects involve a lot more than just myself. And so building that group of people that you can rely on and trust and, work well with is the biggest benefit that you could have. I mean, it's massive. Even just, hey, my car is broken. Well, perfect. I got an auto repair guy that is amazing. I know a mobile guy. Yeah.
That'll come to you.
That'll come to you, and so I think that's another thing that I've loved about doing this that I wasn't expecting. And then all of a sudden you join and you're like, you know what, this is amazing. I get to talk to people. I love talking to people. And then two, I get this just wealth of knowledge. And so it's
right. I didn't know that I needed to know so many lawyers.
Exactly.
But I really enjoyed getting to know all their different niches, and I do need to know them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just one of those things because you're like, oh, I don't. But then all of a sudden someone's like, hey, I need a family law attorney, or hey, I need a personal
real estate
injury
attorney.
Yeah,
and
or
then
a real
I
estate.
need a probate attorney, and no one does all of them.
No, and
it's
so
a very niche field, just like what you do.
Yeah, and it's that's been, I would say, probably the other great part of just this whole experience and stuff. So
so really you're a solopreneur. With an extensive network.
Yes, exactly. And I'd eventually like to get employees.
Yeah.
And just have a few, but for right now, it's just like the one hard part is having those winters that are a little bit slower. It's just harder to find someone that you can, work with and then be like, hey, by the way, we're not working for 3 months, you know?
Yeah.
Where for me, that's easier, right? I can adjust and account for that and also just expect it.
Right. Right. Like, okay, I made this money.
Yeah.
But it has to last.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we're on.
Yeah, in wintertime, like, it's not that I don't do a whole lot, but it's definitely a lot more. It's like, I'll do a lot more interior demos. Like, I'll rip out kitchens and bathrooms. I'll go do, or full guts. Like, I was, we're helping another contractor, and we're demoing a whole basement down to studs. And so, stuff like that is perfect for the wintertime. It's like, great, come in, rip this out, So, yeah, it just sort of depends.
It really does.
Yeah. Eventually, I would like to get some employees. I'd like to get a dump truck and start being able to haul and, like, offer hauling services. So if people want material, and I can now, like, if it's, residential or smaller, then, I don't mind hauling if people want beauty bark or gravel, stuff like that.
Especially when it's a complementary part of the project that's going on.
Yeah,
it makes sense to offer that.
Yeah, or if people need it, I'll do a little bit of haul away. Like, if people, have a dump runner, if they, destroy their shed or their
or their driveway
or their deck or stuff like that. It is another one that I find myself doing quite a bit of. So it's good to offer a good amount. Like I said,
as
long as
for
it's
now.
within for now. Well, then too is, like I said, as long as it's within these not necessarily parameters, but I guess parameters, where it's just like I said, like I'm gonna prefer to go with a piece of equipment, and rip stuff out, But then again, I will go do a kitchen, and I can't just dig in with a bucket and thumb and rip out a kitchen vanity. So
darn it,
But I do like
that roof is in the way.
Yeah, that roof is in the way. So, but no, it's a blast, and I genuinely love what I do. Yeah. So it's been.
I'll cut this out later, but do you ever do total teardowns? Have you ever been called to do home teardown?
Not yet, but I would. So, Jay Doyle had asked me about one, and I told him, I was like, as long as the permitting and everything is there, I can do it.
Okay.
So, because I would like to. So, and that's what I would like to get eventually into doing is like I said, just larger scale projects, whether it's like full teardowns or like foundation digs, for like full houses. And I'll do foundation digs for additions and stuff like that. I've done plenty of those. Or like utility trenching for like gas, sewer, electrical, any of that. So, I'd say another big like customer base for me is like other contractors. That's been, if
they
any,
need you.
Yeah, well, and if anything, I'd say that's probably my most like reoccurring. Trades go hand in hand with other trades where it's helpful. So working with other contractors has been very beneficial, because all of a sudden they're on to the next job, and then they need they're a hole dug or something demoed and stuff like that. So and for me, I always thought like, it's like, dude, everyone's gonna want to be an operator, everyone's gonna have their own equipment, and then I found out that people don't. Apparently it's just me.
Lots of people don't.
I was like, and people are like, well, they don't want the equipment overhead costs and just all the costs that does go into it. They're like, we'd rather have you do that and you do your piece. So I was very also happy to find that out too. Because like I said, I was like, no one else wants to be on this.
I think we often think that about our own business though, like, because we see one side of it and like, oh, everyone's doing this. It's kind of saturated.
Exactly.
But that's only because we're in it.
Exactly. Well, and then too, like, I love running equipment, so I'm like, everyone else must. But it's not the case, which, hey, you know what? I get it. Not everyone wants to sit there and run equipment. And so that was one thing where, even, working with, these other partners, I'm like, you guys don't know how to run equipment? And they're like, no, that's why you're here.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. I was like, all right, never mind. I guess it's just me, but I'm like, hey, you guys can frame. I don't want to frame. Like,
very true.
So stuff like that. So like you said, at first you think it's like saturated or that, everybody else is going to be out there doing it. But then you really realize that it's not, you know.
Yep.
A, it's not, and B, you know, like you said, like, people have their own little niches that they're going to stick in, and someone else is going to call you for your niche. And so getting that mentality out of there has also been a huge part of it, too, where it's just like, okay, you know, people are coming to you and needing you for your service, because not everyone else is out there doing it.
Yeah.
So it works out.
And it sounds crazy.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. It does. Sometimes I pinch myself. I'm like, I'm not really doing this right now. But no, it's, it's been fun.
Well, this has been great. I think people just had their brains like pop with ideas of, oh, I could do this and I could do this, and now I know who to call.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. I hope you got really inspired with today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed our chat with Kevin, because it has been fun.
Yes, thank you, Nickie.
We've taken a winding road through all the ways that excavation might be in your future.
Yes, call for all your dirt work needs.
Call for all your dirt work needs, or concrete, or demo, or landscaping, retaining wall, water.
Yeah. Call if you've got a project.
And big rocks and tree stumps.
Big rocks, tree stumps. Yes, I do love clearing out land.
Yeah, so there you go.
Or setting retaining walls.
I bet you didn't know it, but you do need Kevin. Yeah. You do need an excavator.
Yes. A neighbor with an excavator. You know, I try and help my neighbors out as much all the time, and I tell them, But it's been a pleasure, Nickie. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
I've never been on a podcast.
Yeah. You'll find all of Kevin's contact information in the show notes. So just, expand whatever it is you're listening on, and everything is in the comments or in the show notes, or however you find that on whichever platform it is. So Manning Excavation, you do need him, even if you didn't know about it yesterday.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Nickie.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.